Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the 20th episode of my series here is the nation of Austria, where we're going to be absolutely killing it, of course, and we have 77 Imperial Authority right off the bat, guys. And as we right now core up our 100% overextension, guess what is about to happen? Naturally, I believe we have 62 princes inside of the Empire, if I read that correctly, and they're all going to be voting for the Revoke. So in the year 1539, pretty good if I do say so myself, actually better than the initial video which I made this current patch as the nation of Austria at an even earlier date revoking. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, guys, is before the month ends or France becomes an invalid rival, i.e. immediately, I'm going to go ahead and declare war on him because although I don't have a incredibly good CB, I think I used a reconquest on behalf of Burgundy, but he actually doesn't have that many promises to reconquest from France directly. I'm doing it because I want that lovely power projection, guys, as I'm sure that we will not have a single invalid rival, which can be pretty depressing, guys. Sometimes it upsets me that Ming is higher than rank in score than me, apparently, because of all his bloody tributaries, and yet he's not even a valid rival. But really, yeah, feeling good about that, guys. 1539. And engaged in a war here against France and Muscovy, as well as his small ally Scotland, of the major powers and great powers remaining within the game. However, being able to call in my ally England and Poland, both of which I have many favours with, due to my forces being so high, just as a general rule, going to make this, well, it's going to be an absolute breeze, obviously, with the fact that I have this gigantic vassal swarm. And with that being said, I think that the French may have been a bit derpy here. It happens all so frequently. I think some of their troops are kind of a no-show as they're out doing colonial activity or something like that, but, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, if they did show up, I'd probably wreck their face anyway. Yeah, but definitely what I would consider a huge success, guys. If you recall, the series, the intention of the series was to basically showcase that Austria, although I do 100% agree that the AI Austria, the Emperor, does seem certainly weaker, especially initially from the onset of the game. And they are nerfed, they have been kind of objectively nerfed. I still think that they are one of, if not the most powerful nation in the game, and still a big favorite for myself. And I hope that this video benefits you guys, quite frankly. I hope that it does benefit you, and that you, at the very least, have learned something. I do think it will be interesting to see going into this upcoming patch. You know, there are always changes, and this is, yeah, I'm trying to smash these out basically before the end of the patch here, guys, so that, well, you know, they're out and done. But I do hope that most, if not everything here, is still relevant going into the future patch. But with that being said, guys, you know, assuming things are roughly the same and maintain the same kind of dynamic, I think that this is probably the kind of go-to for players who are seeking that world conquest achievement if they've never gotten it, or a step further, getting that one faith achievement if they have never gotten it, and you know, feel like they need to get it by the strongest means necessary, you know, as opposed to just messing around having fun because of their skill level or something like that. With that being said, guys, you know, what's happening throughout this episode is pretty self-explanatory, just basking in the glory, and I am going to be talking less about the game that we're currently doing and a little bit more about just general things such as advice if you guys were trying to achieve that one faith, for example. Yeah, so regarding one faith, guys, the reason that I think Austria is basically, you know, the best, quite frankly, to kind of acquire that achievement is not only because we're just in such a overwhelmingly influential position at such an early stage of the game, you know, as I pay off my debt because of I'm just basking in ducats now after having all of these subjects pay me tribute, which feels good. The reason is, guys, because mainly, you might say, well, they don't have the best missionary strength or the largest amount of missionaries, but the thing is, they do, in the sense that they have all of these subjects. So inside the empire, there's going to be multiple subjects who actually have religious ideas. And yes, although you might not have the same religious strength as, for example, Najd or Byzantium or something like that, they still have enough strength, and you have way more missionaries with all of your subjects combined. Now I'm going to go ahead, guys, and make many provinces throughout the world a high priority to have my subjects claim them up, which is exactly what I suggest you do as well. You don't need Reconquest or anything like that, or epic CBs, if you do simply have regular CBs and your subjects are doing all of the work. There's very little difference as far as you're concerned with your subjects claiming up all of France, and you give them all of France and they core it all up. Because they're coring it up and spending their points, it's basically the equivalent of something like Reconquest, where you don't need to spend any points. So that feels absolutely amazing, and of course just standardly exploiting the empire. But with that being said, guys, yeah, the idea is you would try to feed your subjects who have the religious ideas in particular. You could feed other subjects that don't have religious ideas, as long as the development is very low in those provinces, and they should reliably convert it if they do not have humanist ideas. And with that being said, you can have all of these vast different nations and feed the world to them very strategically, and by that logic, you of course have so many missionaries throughout all of the different nations. And it goes without saying that you're going to be integrating all of that for free. And that is why I think Austria is basically the best in terms of achieving one faith. And that's not to mention the fact, I think they have 2 missionary strengths themselves, right? And in our case, we have missionary ideas. As long as you guys have embraced the Counter-Reformation, especially if you go in and become defender of the faith and grab Jerusalem and so on, then you also have a tremendous amount of missionaries whilst you are embracing the Counter-Reformation. Now, guys, I'm actually declaring a reconquest here on behalf of Genoa. Genoa actually has core, if I'm not mistaken, on that entire Crimean region. The Crimea basically defected from them, I think, or was released from them, I don't know, but somehow, because usually they don't have core on something that's not their culture. I'm not 100% sure how that broke down, but he does have core. He did conquer all of that region and then has previously lost it. You can even see that province of Genoa there out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, definitely trying to feed the empire here as much as I can, and Reconquest, that's going to help him be stable in the Sunni provinces. The fact that he's already got core there, but also just utilizing that CB, any CB, and trying to pick up the pace here. So I'm actually going to be really turning up the speed here, guys, and blitzing through to the end of this video. This is pretty standard and fluffy stuff, guys, but I did want to prolong the series until we do some of the additional stuff, which is feasible and should be done at some stage, including what we've still been waiting for as the ruler becomes older and older, the Castilian ruler, and just seems to refuse to pass away. And that is, of course, trying to PU Castile. And for the sake of uniformity, there has so far not been, at least as far as I'm aware, not intentionally been a cut or a jump in time. And that's why still here, I'm just going to really turn up the speed here. And this is a tremendous amount of footage, but I am actually just going around and fighting dudes and trying to spread the influence of this glorious empire. Now, guys, some people talking about why don't I feed North Africa to the empire. Guys, you can 100% do that. I highly recommend doing that. It's just that I've been here and done this so many times, myself personally. What I actually had in mind is, because I'm going to be PUing so much of the world, like I'm confident that I'm going to PU the entire PLC, and hopefully, well, pretty confident, yeah, because they have my dynasty, Castile and Aragon, which is also southern Italy and so on. I know that I'm going to be integrating so much of the world via diplomacy, and I've already, in terms of the empire, inherited so much land, and I intend to inherit more land. And what I wanted to do for myself personally is actually form the HRE fairly early, because with absolutism, guys, I'm just going to be in such a powerful shape that I'm confident I could conquer the world, for example. And my intention was to wait for the court and country disaster and wait until my absolutism is above 100, and at that point unify the country and just be a mega beast from that stage onwards. And again, I'm not saying that that's the best thing to do by any means. You can keep exploiting the empire and keep adding land and giving them colonies and so on. It's just that, like I said, I've been there, done that. I've done it multiple times, and there can be issues for sure with your different subjects basically running out of admin and not being stable in these colonies that they have, and it can be quite awkward, but nonetheless it's still the most optimal way to do things. You can see here that I'm continuing to feed Genoa. That's my intention, utilizing his claims out in this region. I think these guys have additional coring cost, and very good idea to give it to my subjects so that I don't have to core it up myself. And yeah, it's the same with North Africa. In my case, I'm reconquesting it to Tunis, so that in a sense is free, but then I am going to need to integrate them. So that's expensive. But yeah, I wanted to kind of challenge myself. There's something kind of, when I first did this, guys, revoked so early, revoked before the Protestant League and so on, there's something satisfying about unifying the empire very early, even though it's not the most optimal thing to do. And quite frankly, that it's basically like playing Germany or Germany major, right? Like all of Austria and plus everything else. There's just no other strategy. There's no other strategy. I've gone really YOLO. I have a Brandenburg series on my channel, one of sort of the forefront series. If you guys watch that series, basically the concept with that series is playing Brandenburg, allying everybody around the empire, around Germany, including, I think, initially Austria, but Poland, Denmark, and ultimately France as well, and just absolutely going ham inside the empire, basically trying to isolate your aggressive expansion to Germany, and blowing up and becoming as powerful as you can, as quickly as possible, flipping to Protestantism, which actually gives you the Holy War CB, and just crushing all of Germany, as if aggressive expansion didn't exist. And that is an extremely satisfying way to play, by just completely ignoring aggressive expansion inside the apparently I'm getting wrecked here by yogurt. But even with that being said, guys, conquering inside the empire, which was very successful, by the way, that strategy, as though the empire didn't even exist, there was no issue expanding into it and additional aggressive expansion, blah, blah, blah. Still, it took me way longer to actually achieve the same thing as I've achieved here. Now, Castile, guys, I think it was bankrupt. It feels really bad, man. He actually sold a province there to the Pope. Yeah, but that's all right. I actually do inherit that as well when I integrate the Pope for free, forming the empire. So it's technically I just got that province. But Castile lost it, and we do intend to PU him in the future. Anyway, my point is, guys, I'm just trying to say that this was done in just over 100 years, right? And my point is, forming the actual empire, you can see that I have the imperial authority points already. That is actually the quickest route to basically form Germany and just play as Germany. And yeah, just considering I'd never done it before, that is kind of what I was leaning towards doing myself. So when people ask me, why don't I do this, why don't I do that, the main reason is just because I don't feel like it, guys. I feel free to exploit the empire as much as you guys want to achieve whatever you guys want, and I highly recommend doing that. It's just for myself personally, I don't mind being a little bit inefficient, as I've done this many times before, and that includes feeding Tunis even though I need to integrate him. You could just as well feed it to an Italian or a Greek or something like that, who is part of the empire, and you will ultimately integrate for free. But yeah, this series is going to continue on for a few more episodes, guys, but we're definitely nearing the end, and of course, most of the information has been put out here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in a future episode where we continue to take over the whole world. Mahaha.